If you are a regular viewer of our program, you know that in pre-pandemic days, we held the roundtable right here around this table, the guests live in our studio.
And you also know that our roundtable is now virtual, and today we have a lot on the plate for our roundtable. And with us today, Carlos Lopez-Cantera, Florida's Lieutenant Governor in the Rick Scott administration, also former member of the State House, LTCLC, I made that up. And Burnadette Norris-Weeks, an attorney in Fort Lauderdale and an engaged civic activist, back with us. Great to see you both. Thanks for being aboard. Not a round table,
well,
but
again,
now
I don't see you, but great to be with you.
You're in little squares. It's the square table.
Carlos, we're delighted to have you join us, and it'll be the first of many times, I hope. Burnadette, let me begin with you as a successful black woman attorney. The death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who fought and made policies that helped you achieve what you have achieved. What is your feeling here on the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
I think it's a tragic loss, not just for female lawyers like myself, who she has helped to pave the path for, but also for all of society. I mean, she has just done so much in her lifetime for human rights, for civil rights, for rights for everyone. And I think it's just a tragic loss. And I hope that we will take a deep breath as a country, honor her legacy, and spend a minute to do that before we rush into the next steps of being partisan and how we replace her.
That actually seems, doesn't it, to be going on as we speak. America is mourning a national legal legend, an icon, and at the same time going through the process, the American process of replacing that vacancy. And this morning, Carlos Lopez-Cantera, we learned that Florida's Judge Barbara Lagoa, who was the first Hispanic woman on Florida's Supreme Court that Governor DeSantis appointed, it seems like yesterday, but it was January 2019, and now is on President Trump's list for that for that vacancy. What do you think about that? Is that someone from Florida, someone with Cuban-American roots? Aside from the justice that she is, that certainly would be an interesting political pick for President Trump.
Well, first let me say Bernadette put it actually very well. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a trailblazer, and we should take a moment to first honor her legacy and her achievements and the opportunities that she created for women throughout this country. I'm the father of two little girls, and I'm glad that they live in a country that the rights that they have were helped by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That being said, Barbara Lagoa is an accomplished jurist, and she would be a phenomenal pick for the court, and we'll see what happens in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, what she was, let's just, for anyone who isn't aware, she's raised in Hialeah. She served as a Miami-Dade Circuit Court judge, then went to the 3rd District Court of Appeal, then went to the state Supreme Court, and then she was appointed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta, a meteoric rise for a very well-respected judge. Carlos Lopez-Cantera, it appears the president has said very clearly he wants to move forward quickly. We've got a little soundbite from the president last night. Let's take a listen.
I will be putting forth a nominee next week. It will be a woman.
So, Carlos, he says he is constitutionally, it is his obligation to move forward quickly, and I think that's really fairly indisputable. The question is, how quickly? Before the election? What about a timetable?
Well, there is no timetable in the Constitution that I'm aware of. It is the president's prerogative to nominate, and it's the Senate's job to confirm. Now, going back just 4 short years ago to when Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia passed away, you had a lot of senators on the left who said one thing, and a lot of senators on the right who said another thing. And now that it seems like each side has switched their messaging. So this is just the hypocrisies that you see in politics all too often these days.
That's such a fascinating process, because you know, one of the people you're talking about, Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader, was one of the people 4 years ago who said, oh, let the people decide and they pick a new president. And now, of course, today he's ready to go to pick a new nominee. But Burnadette, what we were talking about this morning, we learned this morning that that's actually exactly what precedent is in American history. When a president and the Senate are the same party, it's playing out the same way it always does, even though, to Carlos's point, it seems so hypocritical. Can you weigh in on that?
Well, it's hypocritical mostly really on the Republican side, because they were the people who were saying just the opposite. And what's really troubling is the fact that, you know, you have a Mitch McConnell who basically makes a read my lips type statement and then comes back and everything's fine. And I think it just gives a really sour taste in the eyes of the American public, who are already so distrustful of government and elected officials, particularly those in Congress. I don't think this bodes well for the Republican Party in this election, where we have a lot of highly contested races and in a lot of swing states, just like Florida. Yeah. So I think that certainly Rick Scott, Marco Rubio as senators, and our governor need to really think about their messaging, because we're, you know, we have a very, right now Joe Biden's ahead in Florida. Everybody knows that. And this is one state that, while the president has to win it, Joe Biden, you know, really does have other options to.
Does Joe Biden have a nominee list? Might you be privy to that?
Well, I don't think that anybody is privy to it, because I don't think he's released anything. But at the same time, I don't think it's incumbent upon him to release anything. I think it was really poor taste on the part of the president to release a nominee list for the Supreme Court when there wasn't a vacancy. And I think that's you know, really a poor taste, and that just, you know, goes to show you know, what we're looking at in this bitter state of politics in our country.
Yeah, Carlos.
Well, with all due respect to
Burnadette,
there's hypocrisy on the Democratic side too, because just as many senators who said there should not be a confirmation in 2016, there were just as many senators in the Democratic Party saying that there should, and now the roles have reversed. So it's not one party that's being hypocritical; it's both. And to the issue of releasing a list, President Trump released that list when there was a vacancy in 2016, and he only recently added some names to it. Now, the dynamic between 2016 and 2020, the differences are, back then, there was a different party in control in the Senate than there was in the White House. This year, there is the same party in control in the White House and in the Senate. And another thing that really is the only logical reason that I've heard lately to do a confirmation before the election is that if the election is contested and it ends up in the Supreme Court with a 4-4 split, you could have a deadlock in the Supreme Court, which could lead to a constitutional crisis, which I don't think anybody is in favor of right now.
No, and just to sort of, if I can, just to sort of tie this little discussion up here, Burnadette and Carlos, I want you both to comment. You know, it appears it's probable, maybe even, that a vote on whoever is nominated is going to come during the lame duck Congress, that is to say after the November 3rd election, and there are going to be some members of the Senate who are going to be voting who may have been defeated but are still in office. Now, that's not a good thing, is it?
No, it is not a good thing, and that's why it would be really in the best interest of this country to honor the Supreme Court Justices Ginsburg's last wish by allowing there to be a process and a replacement when the new president comes in and is installed. And I think that is really the right thing to do here. Now, I want to go back just a second and just sort of address the issue of this party affiliate, you know, the same parties were in office and that kind of thing. This is a spin job right now that the Republicans are doing. And it's nothing was said about that at that time. That was not the rationale that was used. It wasn't. It was just clear that, you know, we should wait and, you know, we should be able to, we should be able to go ahead and appoint this nominee.
Burnadette,
so I think what we're...
Burnadette, I apologize. I don't really want to relitigate a issue from 2016. We want to move on. So everybody keep your places. We'll be back with more Roundtable in just a minute.
We are back with our virtual roundtable. Burnadette, Norris-Weeks, Carlos, Lopez-Cantera on the square boxes. I want to bring it back local a little bit. Burnadette, you used to represent Broward's supervisor of elections, so I'm guessing you have a little bit of insight into elections and mail-in ballots, and something happened this week that really piqued a lot of people's concerns, and that is a Miami Beach resident who did everything right, voted by mail 7 weeks in advance, never got her vote counted because this ballot was returned to sender just this week, and we find out that it was a post office carrier's human error. So the Miami-Dade elections headquarters was really surprised by this, called it an anomaly. This has never happened before, but boy, at a time when a lot of people are worried about the post office, what are we to think about mail-in voting that everyone really wants people to know is very safe? I mean, how do we reconcile something like that?
Right. Mail-in voting is very safe, despite, what you're hearing in terms of overtures from the White House. It is very safe. You can vote with confidence as long as you get it in on time. And not speaking specifically about this particular person, but many times what we've found in election offices is that you will have a resident who says that they mailed their ballot at a certain time and maybe it wasn't mailed. And so, or they mailed it a little late and they want you to somehow flag it and it's not quite in the system. But the technology will track the mail-in ballots once they get into the supervisors of elections offices, and they will be able to tell you, when it came in and what part of the process they're in to be processed.
Right, and
so
that actually works really well to your point, but in the post office, the U.S. Post Office says this did happen and this was human error. So all of those things in place failed to prevent a screw up by a human being.
Right. And that can happen. I mean, no election is perfect. And although we would like for it to be, especially in these large counties like Miami-Dade County and Broward, where you're getting hundreds of, thousands of ballots that are coming in and going out, there could be a human error. So this is one of those unusual cases. The supervisor in that county said she's never seen anything like it, and the post office said the same. So we can't really expect that. I am worried about other things happening around elections. And as we get closer, lawsuits get filed the night of the election, before the election, things happen where one party or whatever is trying to slow down the election and then sues that it didn't go fast enough. And so you have all of those things that you can look forward to. Don't forget about the felons issue right before the 2000 election. Don't forget about Governor Scott at the time in 2012 about non-citizens and purging voters, and so these are the kind of things that I think we have to keep a high alert for and make sure that our supervisors' offices are not being asked to do things that are not proper. And I think in 2012, for instance, the supervisors of elections all over the state were very, very cautious about doing anything that would purge the voters from the rolls. And I hope they're working together again on that.
Yeah, Carlos, this situation which Glenna reported on, excellent reporting, it appears to be a one-off, but for people who maybe have lost some confidence in mail-in voting, it certainly would shake anybody's confidence to see a legitimate voter cast a ballot by mail and the ballot be undeliverable. Really terrible situation.
Look, nobody wants to be judged, nor does any organization want to be judged on their worst day. But man, the post office really picked a bad time to have their worst day when it comes to this particular ballot. That being said, the supervisor of elections in this state have done and will continue to do a good job. Absentee ballot voting or mail-in voting in Florida is something that has been working very well for many years. Every year, every couple of years, the legislature makes it even better to ensure that anybody that wants to cast a vote has the opportunity to cast a vote. And you've seen it in the returns. You've had consistently more and more voter turnout. And if you look at what happened in the primaries in August, you had a record-setting amount of votes by mail. So, this was a one-off, I think. I do think Glenna did a good job, but it does cast doubt. Even the voter that was quoted in the story said that she's not going to mail the ballot this time and she's going to go and deliver it herself. So, it's up to each individual to do what they think is right. What they really need to do is just ensure they vote. And there's many ways and plenty of opportunities to vote in Florida. You can vote by mail, you can go early voting, you can vote in person on election day. There's clearly no lack of options to vote in Florida. It's just a matter of going to vote.
Absolutely. And we should point out a little attaboy for the U.S. Postal Service in Broward County. They delivered more than 1,200 mail-in ballots, which had sort of piled up late in the afternoon of August 18th. They got them to the Broward Elections Department by 7 p.m. So, kudos to them for that one. But, it's their bad for the one that Glenna reported on. Anyway, hold your positions, everybody. Stay put. We'll be back with more Roundtable in just a minute. We are in the midst of a really good roundtable with Burnadette Norris-Weeks and Carlos Lopez-Cantera, not only the former lieutenant governor, also a state legislator, and for briefly the property appraiser in Miami-Dade County. He's done many things. Carlos, let me begin by asking you about something which didn't get a lot of attention. The Miami Herald certainly gave it attention, and that was the nomination this week by Governor Ron DeSantis of Jamie Grosshands, a judge in Central Florida, to the state Supreme Court. As we all know, the nomination of Renatha Francis failed because she had not been a member of the bar for 10 years. Well, here's the story. It turns out, thanks to good reporting by Mary Ellen Kloss of the Miami Herald, the Judge Grosshands secretly belongs to a group called the Alliance for Defending Freedom, whose mission is to, quote, spread the gospel by transforming the legal system. And I don't know, it seems to raise questions about separation of church and state. And why didn't the governor know about this? I don't know. What's your opinion here?
Well, I'm unfamiliar with that reporting, so I hesitate to comment on it. I do know that the JNC process is responsible for vetting candidates and recommending to the governor, and then the governor's general counsel typically does vetting of their own. But on this particular item, I'm unfamiliar with the story, so I really can't comment on it.
Fair enough. How about you, Burnadette? Did you follow this? Are you aware of this?
Well, I think, first of all, that it's not something that wasn't unknown. And while the JNC process does vet candidates, the governor is now appointing all of the JNC members, which is different from how it used to be years ago. And a lot of lawyers are trying to change that, but that seems to be not something that the governor wants to do. So I think that in terms of how this
the Florida bar does appoint a couple of members to that JNC too.
3 members.
It's not exclusively the governor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this whole process was botched from the beginning. There are so many qualified African-American women and men judges. If the governor really wanted to appoint somebody, even there are some conservative people he could have looked at. And so for this to go this far in this process and have a nominee that now the governor says he just didn't know about the background of this nominee, and they do extensive background checks on these people, I don't believe it.
You know, last week on this program, we actually discussed what happened with Judge Francis and the fact that aside from the diversity of the court, the actual rules of appointing judges and justices are spelled out, and she had not been a member of the Florida bar long enough to fit into those rules. We talked all about that last week. Also last week, after the governor went and was mandated to make another pick, he said he was suggesting to the president that Judge Francis be appointed to the federal bench. Yeah. Weigh in on that, if you would, Burnadette.
I mean, look, I think elections have consequences, and so I'm a firm believer in that. And when your party is in power, especially with the Republican Party, they go all in and they don't care. The rules don't matter. And they go all in. So I can't weigh in on it one way or the other. I hear that she's a lovely woman, Judge Francis. I don't know her personally, so I wish the best for her. Good that maybe the president may consider some diverse candidate for the federal bench. That would be a good thing, and a welcome change.
All right, CLC and Burnadette Norris-Weeks, we're very glad you joined us, and we'll see you soon in the future on the roundtable.
Hopefully in person. Thank you.
Yes.